All right, we are back. The best words in podcasting.
Yes, sir. Back in the stew.
You are pretty good at singing, Jack. You were lying earlier. You said you couldn't sing. Are you a sneaky singer?
I can't sing.
Do you sing in the car, yes or no? Be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone not sing in the car a little bit at least?
You have to.
I think it's only right.
You have
But
to.
I'm a little shy when there's people in my car. I'll be honest, though. I don't like belt it out with passengers.
They got to sing with you.
Yeah, but even then, I'm like a little timid. I don't let my true colors show.
I guess if I'm not super comfortable with them, I probably
I'm not belting Shania Twain with someone else in the car. I might like sing it, but I'm not gonna belt it, you know.
Fair enough.
But today, mock trades. That's what's on the docket today.
Yes, sir.
We did the mock draft. Now we're doing mock trades. Jack's got 3 trades. I got 3 trades. Real players, real teams, mock trades.
I'll mock everything.
It's exciting. You guys liked it the first time, so we're going to run it back via the trade aspect of it. We have some draft picks involved. We have some players involved, some veterans involved, some big names involved.
Oh, yeah.
So excited for you all to hear them and to tune in and to weigh your opinions on them when it's all said and done. After that, we get into our whiffs of the week to conclude. And without further ado, this is the Pipe It Up podcast, and cue the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pipe It Up podcast, the official podcast of MLW Wiffle Ball. Jack, welcome back.
Thanks,
Tom. Thank you for joining us today, and we have an exciting docket.
I'm excited for this one.
We're getting into more fantasy stuff.
Got to.
We got to. Nothing else to talk about. There's the dog days of summer. These are kind of the dog days of winter here.
Oh, yeah. This is the off season of MLW where we just make up teams, we make up trades, we do whatever we want.
Just start making stuff up. We get bored. But no, we got no NFL happening, of course. We got March Madness in about a week and a half.
Yeah, that's
which is
starting
exciting.
soon.
That's exciting. Yep. And I know the NHL season's kind of winding down a little bit, but not really. Mm-hmm. Still got another month here till playoffs, right?
The NHL?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're coming up here on the playoffs, which the Red Wings actually seem like they're there.
So I was kind of following. We were on some kind of win streak apparently. And then this is, if you guys are hockey fans, you might have heard this, but the Red Wings added a sponsorship patch to their jerseys. We were on a 5-game win streak. Now we've lost 6 in a row since the patch. We have not won.
Are you not going to say the sponsor?
Since adding the patch. I don't even remember who it is, to be honest.
Okay. Well, rip it off.
I agree. Everyone's saying tear it off. It's not worth the money.
It's not worth the contract.
It's not. So that's what's happening in the Detroit Red Wings world. NBA, I don't follow too close.
I got to start actually watching the Red Wings.
Hockey's cool. I don't tune in enough.
It's tough. They're like the baseball. I always tell myself like I'm gonna watch more Tigers games and like more Red Wings games, but there's just so many games that it's like by the time I realize like there's one playing on, I'm like already doing something.
Like, there's one tomorrow too. It's fine.
Yeah, and then I just never watch. Yeah.
That's totally fair. Totally fair. But to get back to our reality, which is actually a fantasy at this point in time, we have prepared some mock trades today. So you guys wanted to see the mock draft, the mock rankings.
Yep.
We got the mock trades. Jack and I have prepared 3 trades each.
Yep.
Of what, I can't speak for Jack, but in my opinion, I've created trades that could realistically happen. I do see pros and cons to both sides of the deal for both managers involved. I do see pros and cons for the players involved in these trades.
Yep.
But that's kind of the reality in any trade, in my opinion. There's always winners and losers.
And there's always going to be a little bit of subjectivity to it. You know, everyone's going to have their own opinion. I tried to go, we'll get into it, but I tried to go, fair and kind of realistic to also some trades that would just maybe be a little cool to see. So
that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want, right?
Right.
You're a people's guy, a people's man.
Yeah.
I also want to preface everything too by saying that it's a little bit harder for me to put a value on a player compared to a draft pick because salaries are not a part of this league.
Right.
So you're not like clearing cap space by getting rid of a big name for draft picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The lack of contracts in the league makes the trading a lot less complicated.
It's not like let's dump Robles. He's got a big deal. We can't afford him anymore. I think so. It's purely talent based, but it's a fun thing to think about, I guess, if we were to add fake salary caps or like fake value to players and then incorporate that into trades too, it'd be pretty cool.
I will say, I think with the draft picks, being incorporated into the trading, obviously, like the trades that involve the draft picks just have so much speculation because you could get someone like an RJ Walgate, or you could get, someone who hasn't showed up to the Meadows.
Say it.
Someone who hasn't showed up to the Meadows. And
literally or not literally?
I mean, that's literally happened.
Okay. Some people
the
show
Predators
up.
draft pick last year didn't show up.
They might as well just be getting Cardi out there. You know what I mean? They're not really playing.
Yeah, well, I'm saying he didn't appear.
He did not appear.
So yeah,
an actual ghost.
And that was not,
Correct.
They didn't draft him knowing that. So
yeah, the draft in MLW is tough. It is not a forgiving thing.
No,
because our fans are into it as they should be. So are we. But
yep,
you don't have a lot of information and a lot of film on these guys, so you're taking chances where you can and hoping things pan out. You know?
Yep.
But
that's right.
Let's dive into it. Do you want to go first, or should I lead off?
You lead it off, Tom.
Okay, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Tom's first trade. We have a trade between the Western Wildcats and Eastern Eagles. We have
the Blue Bloods.
The Blue Bloods. Dan and Kyle, they're in cahoots. They're gonna making deals. They're always talking. So I have Kyle sending his number 3 overall pick over to the Eagles in exchange for Blade Walker and the 7th overall pick. So in my eyes, I know the Wildcats had the number 1 overall pick this year. Hopefully going to get a guy who can do both. Hit it and pitch it. A little offensive and defensive combo. I'm hoping for them. So they will pick up that elite guy. Don't really need that number 3 pick necessarily because now you have Schultz, Saylor, Pearson, this number 1 overall pick. There's 4. And you have Liam in the tank if you need him.
Yeah.
You add Blade to the mix. Well, in my opinion, you have Kyle and Saylor last year were the 2 arms. Both weren't upper echelon guys in my eyes. Both very, what's the word? They're serviceable.
Yeah.
And you could even say at sometimes they've both had ace type stuff. Kyle more consistently than Saylor. Saylor had more of a short stint in that elite conversation. That was a wild year a couple years ago. But to me, you bring in Blade. And even though Blade's not proven himself over time, but I've seen enough to know he's pretty darn solid.
Yeah.
He pitched in some big high-pressure games this year.
For sure.
And he has some pretty wicked movement also. So you pair him with a guy like Kyle, and Kyle's throwing stuff from down here. Risers mostly. Blade's like that straight over the top pitch that's cutting down on you.
Yep.
I think he'd be a pretty reliable number 2 guy. And then maybe you don't need to use Kyle or Saylor. You can mix him in with this new number 1 overall pick. So I don't even think you need his offensive talents because Kyle, Saylor, number 1 overall pick, and JP are all pretty solid.
Yeah.
You're guaranteeing yourself a pretty up-and-coming, solid, and unseen number 2 arm. Not a lot of guys have faced Blade yet. Very few teams have. So that's the value I see for the Cats. Eagles, on the other hand, are getting a number 3 pick, dumping Blade, which could cause pitching problems. So you'd probably need to draft a young arm at number 3, but I don't know, something I thought was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair trade, and I think that works out really well for both teams. I like how you kind of, are speculating with that number 3 pick from the Wildcats because they do have that number 1. They don't necessarily need 2, up and perennial players to add in the draft for them to be good. I mean, they're really just one piece away, so they could kind of get deeper somewhere else with an established player that they know, in Blade, and that can kind of bolster their bullpen. I do, in terms of being realistic, I just playing the Eagles and seeing them interact, I feel with the season that they had last year and with Blade doing so much for that team and proving himself so much, I feel like Dan wouldn't want to part ways with him.
I think I agree.
Especially because their pitching situation was really rocky there for a second, and they did kind of get solidified.
Like I said,
he shored him up.
Pressure moments.
He shored him up. But yeah, I mean, that would be a cool trade. That would be cool. A lot would depend on who the Eagles pick up there in that 3 spot.
Yes, I agree. And the one piece of upset side I saw there from a player's perspective, because we do consider that we want what's best for everybody in MLW.
Yeah.
And Blade doesn't really hit in this Eagles lineup. Now, like I said, the Wildcats probably have 4 solid bats lined up, but both Liam and Ty are both pretty solid, but weren't the most reliable in terms of actually getting to the Meadows this year. So if Blade's constantly there and their 5th guy, I think he might get more reps at the plate and have more opportunities. I don't know, but that was just one thing to consider too.
So I'll pose this question. I feel like we've seen this happen in years past where a pitcher or a young player will kind of come on the scene and, for example, like RJ, where people are just not used to seeing his stuff, right? Versus a guy like Kyle, where we've seen Kyle like for years now. We know his whole arsenal. We know how his pitches move. And Blade's kind of similar, right? Like no one had really faced Blade until this year. So given the fact that like he does have some crazy movement, but it's not like he has 5 different pitches that he can throw. In a way he is kind of comparable already to like a Nick Saylor. Like Nick didn't really move a lot, but he pounded the strike zone, which is kind of what Blade would do. He would stay in and around the strike zone like at all times. And I guess my question is, do you think that there's any sort of like, not sophomore slump for Blade, because he's not a sophomore, and I'm not saying it would be a slump, but just like sort of like a regression to the mean of being like an average pitcher, because he was kind of an above average second pitcher.
Yeah, I definitely considered that, and I think it's sort of become the reality in this league that there's a natural decline in arms, which I think plays more against Kyle and Saylor year after year after year than it does to Blade at this point.
Yeah.
And I think Blade wasn't really training to be a pitcher last year. He just got thrown into it and somehow found success.
Just figured it out.
So if he adds even one more pitch, he really only kind of has 2 right now. He has a knuckleball, which is not his primary. He has the drop ball, which is his primary. But his drop ball is more consistent than like a Sawyer Bean crazy drop ball.
Yeah.
And so I think Blade hasn't quite hit his ceiling yet. So I don't think we're in that sophomore slump era of his career quite yet.
Got it.
And with the Wildcats adding a number 1 overall player, I think this is definitely a win now type year.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than spend that number 3 pick on a hopeful number 2 arm or a hopeful bat, why not go for an established guy when you already have a lot of talent you've seen out there that can win games?
Yeah,
That's
I like it. I like it. But I'll go, I guess building off that, I also had a trade involving the Wildcats. This was kind of my fun one. Do I think it's the probability of it happening is high? Absolutely not. But I do think it's a fair trade. So in this trade, the Predators would receive the 1st pick, the 3rd pick, and Jackson Pearson from the Wildcats, and would send Ryan Kratch to the Wildcats.
Oh boy. Jack didn't shy away from the mock trade.
This is a blow it up and restart trade. That, like I said, I think is pretty fair. So a couple things on this one. Number one, the Predators are not alone in this, but they're one of the older teams in the league. They've struggled in the past years, and with no fault, like I mentioned earlier, no fault really to Ryan and Alec, but they've struggled to really see a ton of production from their young players that they've added through the draft. So their roster has become a little bit aged, relatively. Number two, Ryan is obviously he is what he is, MVP. We've seen him do it, and who knows, he's kind of in that same tier of like, we don't really know how long we're going to be able to play in this league, going forward. Ryan? How many more years? Yeah, Ryan. Like, he's a little bit younger than us, but
he is. He's a dedicated guy, though.
He is dedicated, but he also likes to win, and I know he likes to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I could see this as hypothetically in his mind, like, I'm not going to call it like ring chasing, but if he goes to a team with, run support that has himself, Kyle, Nick Saylor,
that team would be insane, bro.
That team would be lights out.
Insane.
That team would be lights out.
Is it enough? Are they sending enough over there? If you're Alec Warda, if you're Russell, are you upset?
Well, here's the thing is, you gotta think about, like I said, the future for the Predators. I mean, there could be a year where, Brennan and Alec are the same age. I mean, there could be a year where they potentially lose both of them in the same season just due to life.
I agree.
So like that's a really realistic chance. So you get the best player in the draft, which you got to assume is going to be your ace pitcher. hopefully he can produce at the plate.
Yeah, a Jordan Robles type guy.
Yep. You got Jackson Pearson now, who can be your second arm. We've seen him pitch. Kyle went to him a lot over the last season, and I think similar to Blade, like he can develop. I don't think he's really hit his peak.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't mention him before.
So that's kind of the number 2 arm, and you get a great bat with Jackson. And then that third pick, I mean, that would be the difference maker. Like if they landed that third pick similar to how, the Magic were able to get Grant and RJ. I mean, that was a 1 and a 3. Like picture Grant and RJ on the Predators, like with Jackson too. That's crazy. Players of equal caliber or somewhat equal caliber. Like they would, I think that would be enough.
Yeah.
Do I think they're going to get rid of Ryan? Obviously no. But
yeah, here are my comments, Jack. I do kind of like it. It would really depend on the draft class and who we thought those 1 and 3 picks were going to end up being.
Yeah.
If I'm Alec Ward, I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I'm Alec making this deal,
co-managers too, so Ryan would have to agree with this.
Let's just put that out the window here. But let's just assume Ryan had no say in it.
This isn't a day-to-day.
No, this is a big picture decision. Ryan was left out of this meeting. So now that you say that and justifying it with last year's draft, with those 1 and 3 picks, it seems like there's a chance you could really make some noise with this move. And the Predators have had such bad luck with the draft in the past that they're bound to hit something here.
Yeah.
Now, what I love about this trade is it could set up absolute cinema in the ALCS between the Preds and the Cats, where Ryan's taking on Warda and Russell against the Young Guns on the Preds. That would be pretty cool.
I think that also unfortunately hurts the possibility of it happening, obviously, is because I don't think either team would want to give that to the other team. Well, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like the Preds don't want Ryan on the Wildcats. Rivalry. Yeah. And the Wildcats don't want to give all that to the Preds.
It's like the Giants trading Saquon Barkley to the Eagles today.
Right. It's
a little weird. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
And the Lions got David Montgomery last year from the Bears. But I love that aspect of it. I love the inner squad. They're going to play each other regular season and probably postseason.
Yeah.
As a fan, it'd be a tough one to swallow. If you were a huge Preds fan, having Ryan play you on the Wildcats, you'd be like, what am I watching right now?
Yeah, it would be tough.
But it'd also be exciting in a way. If your draft picks did end up being good, it'd be pretty cool. So I see both aspects of it, and I really don't think it's that unfair. It's hard. I mean, Ryan Cratch is 1 of 1. He's back-to-back MVP. So how do you replace that? I don't know, but I don't really hate it. I think it's somewhat fair.
I mean, just the last point I'll make on it is kind of like, thinking about relating it to sort of like the NFL, like a team like the Bills that have a quarterback like Josh Allen. And it's like every year that goes by that the Bills don't win, you're just like, it's so wasteful. And that's how, I'm not saying the Preds feel like this, but like when you have a guy like Ryan like that and you're not like, at least like in the World Series or like win, like he only has 1. So, you'd think a guy of that caliber would have more than that. And so I don't know. That's kind of like
this is where like salary could get very interesting if we were to introduce that aspect. Because if you clear Ryan, you'd be like, whoa, we can have such a balanced squad now versus just one guy having all the marbles.
100%.
That'd be a cool thing to introduce. Good trade. I like that for your first one. Started off with a bang. You put my trade to shame. My second trade, and this one is a dream trade of mine, sort of, but we all kind of know this ain't going to happen. But I have a trade between the Mallards and the D-backs, and I have Jacob Pishka coming over for Caden Irwin and Matt Carlington.
No shot.
No shot?
No shot.
That's what Jimmy's told me too.
Yeah, no shot.
Why not?
That's not fair.
Pishka's young. He's only had 1 year, and he wasn't even there for every series.
Dude. We talked about this last time.
Everybody is...
Watch him warm up.
Everybody's sleeping on the bat of Matt Carlington, though, including Jimmy, who's like one of his best friends. Matt can swing it.
That's fair, but...
and I'm also giving you a number 2 arm in Caden Irwin.
Yeah, is Jimmy going to go to him, though, as his number 2 arm when it matters?
No, he's not, because he won't accept my trade.
No. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
That's kind of where I'm at with that one. But I, in my opinion, it's not that bad. Jimmy's like, he's untouchable. You can't touch him. He's too good. I think that Matt is a good bat and could replace Pishka. Not quite so much in the balanced approach, but I think Matt's going to get you. If Matt played every game, I truly think Matt's going to get you 4 or 5 home runs. I really believe that.
I know, but just like
let me finish. So I'm giving you Matt for Jacob.
Okay.
Pishka didn't really pitch last year at all, and I'm giving you Caden. Now you have Jimmy Norp and you have Trey Flood. Jimmy's kind of seems to have maybe peaked on the mound, but I'm never counting out that guy. He's too dedicated and too good and too much. Plays with too much heart, and as you described last week or 2 weeks ago, it does matter. Mm-hmm. Heart can win you games. Jimmy's got a lot of it. So you're also giving them Caden, which they could even use to leverage for more, in my opinion. You could leverage that to another deal. I don't know.
Leverage.
I think so.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
Let's just look at the paper.
Okay.
Let's look at the paper. What lineup would you rather face? Okay. What lineup would you rather face? Jimmy Norp, Jonah Heath, Jacob Pishka, put in a Casey Bennett, put in a third name, Trey Flood.
Okay.
Or would you rather face Jimmy Norp, Jonah Heath, Caden Irwin, and Matt Carlington?
Next question. Can you give me another one?
I mean, it's just like he won't do it. I don't think he'll do it.
That's the problem.
I'm not saying it's not totally unfair.
This is why we're at a stalemate, because I don't have much else to offer him. You know, everything else I kind of need.
Yeah.
And my draft pick
what would you do there though? Because you're gonna put all your chips in on Preston then.
Yes.
In that trade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
all chips in the middle.
That was his number 2 overall pick. That was kind of always the plan. So that's what it is. Let me know if it's whack. If it's whack, call me out, guys. I think as the stingiest fantasy football trader of all time, if I was Jimmy Norp, I would look at this and I would laugh.
Yeah.
But me being the center of this trade is like, it's not that bad. It shouldn't get laughed at. It should get reviewed and declined, which is possibly what happened.
Reviewed and declined. That's fair.
Reviewed and declined. Don't laugh at my offer. Matt's a good player.
No,
Give me
agree.
opportunities. Matt's pretty good. And Caden just hasn't quite found his swing in MLW at the plate. And he's a taller guy. It's a lower zone. We haven't seen a lot of success from the tall men in this league. We really haven't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think. There's not many examples. There's McPeak, Caden, RJ, But I watched Caden swing it in these national championship tournaments, and he does a good job. Mm-hmm. Better than I hit at Wiffs, I'll tell you that much. He was one of our better bats. So, and I've kind of been giving him inconsistent opportunities, which is tough. It's very hard to rely on someone to get better when they're only going in on certain days.
Right.
So, that applies to both Matt and Caden at the plate, really. I should be selling out on one guy, but when everyone's traveling to events and come out to the meadows, I try to give everybody some playing time, of course. So, that's on me a little bit. But Caden can swing it. I think he even said he was playing wiffle ball first as only a hitter and then learned to pitch, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Reviewed and declined.
Reviewed and declined. I can live with that, but just don't. If it's laughable, I want to know, because I think I need to reevaluate the talent I have.
All right. Well, you tell me if this is a review and decline.
Okay. From which perspective? Do you already have an edge?
You don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know.
Okay.
Either way.
Okay.
So this is, I'll just go with my Diamondbacks one. The Diamondbacks receive Brendan Jorgensen they receive Brendan Jorgensen, and the Gators receive the 4th pick and Casey Bennett.
Again, this is talent dependent. So if I am the Gators, I feel like I'm giving away one of my better players for a wild card in Casey Bennett. I don't think it's laughable.
Here's the thing.
I don't think it's laughable.
I think a lot of people would look at that trade and say the same thing that my instant reaction to your last trade is like,
look at the
lineups.
lineups.
What are you getting here?
Yeah.
Look at the lineup. But
I already defended Casey.
We've defended Casey. Solid bat. He's shown he can pitch a little bit too. And you get that 4th pick. So you're kind of you're getting a little bit more of they gotta build quickly here. So, you're adding another draft pick too.
Yes.
You are giving away, probably your best bat, but you could argue that it's sort of like a sell high time. Because
it kind of is.
He is a great hitter, and he's shown his ability to hit in the past, but this last season was by far his best season. So you could argue that it has never been a better time to sell him.
I would actually probably agree with you. And reason being that the Gators, despite having Jorgensen, who's this great bat, and Cheatham having this potential, and Chadwick being this power hitter, they teamed up and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And when I had Bonham on the Mallard just a few years ago, and he was my best player, on paper we should be talented. We weren't winning games. I was like, well, I got to change something.
Break it up, yeah.
I got to change something. We're not winning.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be the worst thing in the world to try to flip the table, culture change, culture shift, new vibe, get what you can for one of your better guys who's coming off his peak in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really hate that trade if I'm either side. I think if you're the D-backs, you lost in the first round of the playoffs, and I would attribute that more so to probably I forget that series. Was that an offensive issue or a defensive issue there?
I think it was pretty tight. I
thought the bullpen management I was not a fan of.
Right.
I've already said that.
That's kind of what I was going to say, is that Jimmy, I think, got away with what got them there.
Got away from, yes.
To that point. Yeah, he got away from that. I also thought about if Jimmy would, like, in this trade, like, somehow mixing Trey Flood in, maybe, like, instead of Casey, but I just felt like that leaned way too much towards the Gators.
Trey Flood's similar to, like, you could say sell high, but he's so young, too.
He's so young. That's the thing.
You think he's going to stick around for several more years.
You'd expect him to.
Jimmy's got assets.
Yeah.
He's got assets.
And he really hasn't, he's only, when he's gotten the opportunities at the plate, he's kind of shined, and he hasn't had that many opportunities. And we've seen what he can do on the mound.
I know, now that Shima's gone, maybe we'll see more Trey Flood at the dish.
We might. But I mean, again, like, lineup check here. If you had Jorgensen in, that's a scary 4.
Yeah,
that's a really scary 4.
Yeah,
like I think if this was a hypothetical trade, I think Jimmy obviously loves Casey and wouldn't want to like. Mm-hmm. He might not want to dish Casey, but
I think he'd love.
I think he'd have
Casey.
No problem parting.
I think he'd love to send Casey packing.
I think he'd have no problem parting ways with that 4th pick to get a guy like Jorgensen, who he might not have a 365 season again, but he definitely could hit 250. And you got a 250 guy, like, either leading off or turning the lineup over in the back or whatever. Like, plug him in anywhere.
I think, based on what I've seen in this league over the last few years, too, I think Jorgie going to a winning team would actually make him even better, in theory.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot less weight on his shoulders to produce the plate.
Right.
And this is just jokes, guys, but Jimmy cutting Bennett would be like the scene.
He's not cutting him, he's trading him.
Jimmy trading Bennett would be like the scene in Moneyball when it's Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, and they cut 2 guys, one of them being, I think it's Jeremy Giambi, who's... Have you seen Moneyball before, Jack?
I have, but...
So basically, Giambi's like this partier who's like breaking team rules and just, he's not a good clubhouse guy. And so Brad Pitt makes Jonah Hill cut one player, and he's like, oh, we're trading Giambi too. And then Jonah Hill's like, you want me to tell him? And Brad Pitt's like, no, I'll tell him. Like, I want to trade him. That's Jimmy talking to Bennett. He said, Jonah's like, should I tell him? And Jimmy's like, oh no, I'll tell him.
I'll tell him.
Bennett, you've been traded to the Gators. Short and sweet.
I don't know. That one was like, I felt like it, I don't think it would get reviewed and declined. I think it would get reviewed, discussed, and maybe.
Okay.
Review, discussed, maybe.
Also, side note, if you have not seen Moneyball and you're okay with seeing a PG-13 movie, parents, kids, highly recommend. Phenomenal movie.
It is a good movie.
One of my all-time favorites. Probably favorite sports movie ever. That or Remember the Titans, I think.
Remember
the
the
two.
Titans.
What do you like?
Great.
Remember the Titans?
Titans is great.
So good.
But my favorite sports movie is Miracle, which is funny because I was just saying how I'm not really that big of a hockey fan, but that movie is great. Fantastic.
Any other honorable mentions I would have?
That might be, I think that's my favorite movie. Yeah.
My favorite movie. Ooh. A lot of good ones out there. Again, this is more of an adult movie. I think this is PG-13 also, but I'm a big Dream guy. I vocalized that before. I do like Inception a lot.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
There's others though that I like. I'm kind of have blanking here. Favorite kids movie ever or like PG movie? Ratatouille. I love Ratatouille.
You're telling me the rat was a chef the whole time?
The rat was the chef.
That is a great movie.
It's just like the aesthetic of it. I don't know. It's like, I just love it.
There's no shame on PG movies.
No, there's not.
PG
Kicking and Screaming, phenomenal. That's PG.
It's so good. That's so good. Is that PG? Yeah. That might be the.
That was PG and today's day and age it might be like a PG-13, but not really.
I mean,
if you watch it back, they don't do anything.
Dude, that's wow. That might be the best like adult catered PG movie of all time.
Every good PG movie is slightly adult catered.
Yeah,
because there's also parents going to these movies.
Yeah, they have to be.
You need those little. SpongeBob's also the same way, where it's like there's stuff in there that's like subtle. Yeah. That's what makes every good show. When you can watch it back as an adult and still appreciate, I didn't catch that when I was younger. Those are the best kind of shows, in my opinion. So, what's my top 3 here? Ratatouille, Moneyball, Remember the Titans, Inception. That's probably rounds it off there.
It's good.
There you have it, guys. My final trade. Bring it back here. This one involves the Wildcats again. I must have had the Wildcats on the brain earlier today. And I think this is an interesting one. We have Nick Saylor and next year's Wildcats pick. So Nick Saylor and a 2025 draft pick going to the Cobras for the number 2 overall selection this year.
So the Wildcats are just tripling up in this draft?
Yep. 3 picks. 1, 2, 3.
That would be crazy. That would be so sick.
I think it'd be awesome. That's why I did this. I thought it was funny. Because we've seen the Magic 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
We've never seen the 1-2-3 punch.
The trifecta.
Now you're losing Saylor, which is a big loss.
Yes.
But you're getting 3 guys. And the reason I was the pick load up thing is, once again, I mentioned in my first trade how Liam, and I love Liam, by the way, Liam and Ty, good guy too, both weren't there that often. So the Cats were kind of struggling to get a 4th guy there. They really only had 3 guys. So, and it was like, hopefully we can get a 4th today type thing. Austin Ford even filled in this year one time.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got 6 guys, which is like the full MLW roster size. I have 6 guys. Last year was myself, Caden, Colm, Robles, Carlington, Davenport.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. I was never concerned about that. I always knew I had 2 reliable subs, if you call them subs.
Yeah.
And now the Cats have that depth that Kyle has probably been praying for all along, having 6 players.
Love that trade. I love that trade for.
But what about the Cobes though?
The Cobes is interesting because they don't necessarily shore up their bullpen. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I mean, you got a few guys on that team that they'd have to work at it. I mean, they'd have to develop. Like, for example, Drew still has Chris Baranowski on his team that I know he can pitch. Hasn't got a ton of showtime, but he can pitch. Apparently Zerlag, maybe.
A lot of question
Drew's
marks.
Always there.
A lot of question marks in that Cobras clubhouse right now.
But Nick could fill in too. I mean, he definitely could fill in for a year. He could be a bridge guy to go into that 2025 draft and really lock down and get it.
I also have noted here that it seems like Drew is just building the Vibe Tribe.
Yeah,
and Saylor is an asset in that category.
He's a high vibe tribe guy. Yeah, high vibe.
So you're looking at Drew Davis, Sean Flynn, Brendan Zerlag, and Nick Saylor.
Yep.
And you have the Barron brothers.
Yep.
Like, that is a vibe tribe.
That is vibes.
This is Drew absolutely selling out on that and not looking back.
Yeah. I mean, it fits. It
fits
for sure.
And I think it might be just
fits his strategy right now.
Might be just crazy enough if you're Drew Davis. If I'm Drew, I would be.
It's so crazy.
I would take that number 2 pick and I would hold it tightly.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to nail that if you're Drew Davis.
Or trade it.
Or trade it. Or trade it for.
Or trade it.
He just needs an arm, in my opinion.
Or trade it.
I don't. Again, it's Drew, and he's relying on the vibes. But if I'm Drew, I don't love going into the season with a lot of question marks at number 2 arm.
I think the channel's better when Drew pitches. I think he should.
That's a fair point.
We've praised him so much for taking a step back and having the I guess like maturity to like let other people take their turn in the spotlight on the mound. I think I'm going to reverse that take. I think Drew I think Drew needs to get back on the mound for the Cobras.
I think Drew being on the mound in small doses is good for the channel. I think Drew being successful on the mound for a sustained period of time would be electric for the channel.
Oh, that would be electric. That would be unbelievable. If like the Cobras made like a deep playoff run and it was because of Drew's pitching, it would be. I mean,
can I tell you about
one of the best storylines in MLW?
Can I tell you about a selfish fantasy I've had before?
Sure,
it's terrible to say out loud, but we all have thoughts.
Please.
Yeah, I've thought about like, what if I just secretly trained like a madman behind the scenes?
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you
got good at pitching, and then all of a sudden, like the playoffs turn around, and I just take the hill.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, "What is happening?" And I'm rocking like a drop, slider, riser. I got everything.
Yep.
They're like, "What on earth
Where
am I
is this
looking
been?"
at? And it would just be awesome, but it'll never happen.
So cool.
It's a dream fantasy.
It could happen.
Again, I'll stand on this and say that things in life that I really want, I go for, and I make happen. I don't think I want it that bad. I don't think I want. It's just a dream. It's not a desire.
It's just a dream.
Just a dream, not a desire. Yeah.
That's funny. I like that trade.
Okay, cool. Send us home.
Okay. This last one actually also involves the Cobes. I know, Tommy, that, I mean, you even had a hypothetical trade with the Mallards yourself. So I know you're thinking about dealing. You're thinking about wheeling and dealing. You're trying to make moves. I know you're trying to make moves.
Pishka's agent, give me a call. Let's make something happen.
This trade, I don't really know how I feel about this trade for either side, but I feel like it is fair. It's just Brendan Baranowski from the Cobras to the Mallards for the 6th pick. Just straight up.
Wow. If I got that offer, I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, you would think about that.
But I don't know what Drew's doing. Who's going to pitch?
I don't know what Drew's doing either.
Your number 2 pick then, and then you got to have Zerlag or Drew figure it out, or his brother Baron, little Baron, that is.
I mean, that's kind of my thought there is, okay, of course, these are big ifs. I granted, these are big ifs. Mm-hmm. But if he gets an ace at number 2, and
which he could.
It is, but which he could.
It's happened.
And he gets a serviceable number 2 arm at the least. I mean, he really doesn't. I mean, he would want it, I think. But a serviceable arm and a good bat. I think that makes the Cobras better.
So you're sending away Baron for the number 6 pick. That's correct?
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the right time to trade Baron. Just because he didn't have that great of a year last year.
But that's why I felt like the 6th was fair. Because he didn't, if he had a better, if this was the 2022 season, I think that's just like a fleece.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
That's a fleece.
He's the Cy Young.
Yeah.
So if I got this, I'd be surprised. You put it that way.
Yeah.
And
I think the Mallards win this trade. I think the Mallards like this trade a lot.
But again, I'd probably be like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. And similar to what I said about Jimmy getting Caden, I'd look at Baron and say, okay, what can I turn this guy into?
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of have my staff. I have Robles. I have Caden. I have Preston, who I'm very high on Preston being a pitcher in this league.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying, okay, now I have Baron and I have Caden. I have these 2 other arms that Baron's won the Cy Young. Caden hasn't, but what can I do with these 2 extra players to maybe help me more on the offensive side?
Well,
does that make sense?
Talk about leverage.
Yeah.
I mean, you get Baron, now you can either leverage him or leverage some of those other guys that you're talking about. That's what I'm saying, yeah. And I mean, let's just be honest here. Part of the Mallards getting over the hill in the playoffs has been that second arm. And Baron has been there and done that. So it's like you got Robles and Baron as like your number 2 arms going to the playoffs. That makes the Mallards a lot scarier from like the bullpen in my opinion.
Yeah, I
mean, that's not seeing Preston having pitched a full season, but I mean, last year, like if you guys had Baron on your team in the playoffs, like I think you would have felt a lot more confident like going to him, if you had to.
Yeah. It's hard. So I probably wouldn't want to send Preston away because I still think he's not worth enough yet.
Yeah.
He's got to earn his worth a little bit more. And I think he will. So yeah, again, Jack, if I'm the manager here and I have Barron in my lap for a number 6 pick. I say, here, Drew, take my pick. I'll take Barron. And then it's boop, 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 boop. Jimmy Norp, how you doing? Got another sweetener for you. Pishka. Brendan Baranowski. Make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to turn that into an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
Just honestly speaking.
Yeah.
So, while I think the pitching could be better, I think a lot of it's management still and developing that number 2 guy to where I have a legit, no nonsense. You're number 2. You are starting the second game in the playoffs. Here's the ball. It's your game. I need that before the playoffs start. And I'm working on that. And 2 years ago, it was our offense. We couldn't get a hit on Jimmy. This year, we just got shelled in those second 2 games somehow. Nightmares. But
yeah,
I like the trade from my end. Put it that way, Jack.
I mean, that's kind of how I felt.
But maybe Barron's never the same. I don't know. It's hard to gauge.
The only thing that I had going for me that made this trade somewhat realistic is that Drew's so unpredictable.
You can never
never know his next
everything's
move.
On the table.
You never know his next move. So he might love a guy at 2 and really like a guy at 6.
Want me to share a spicy trade? It was never going to happen because they were rookies.
Yeah.
This is some spicy behind the scenes stuff, guys.
Oh.
I was thinking to myself 2 years ago when Robles was a rookie and I think Sawyer Bean was also a rookie at the same time, right? This is the 2022 season. Like one game went by and I was like, wow, what if I didn't draft Robles? Like this would be so different if I would have let him slide or something like that. And I was like, it would be a wild, this is me and Kyle, just like talking during a car ride board, I was like, it would be a wild trade is if we sent Robles to the Cobras and we took Barron and Sawyer. So all the young guns just flip-flopped. Yeah. Pretty nuts.
That would be crazy.
But I think we need to have an official clause there to where a guy can't move for a year or 2 years. Like if he's a rookie.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like it'd be a cool thing. If you draft him, you're kind of stuck with him.
It would be kind of cool though, if, on the flip side, if you just drafted a guy, played him 1 series, and then you traded him, and then he popped off, and everyone's like, "What did you do?"
I want to hear your guys' mock trades. Where can you leave them?
I'm sure you guys can come up with some better ones than we did.
I think you could. I think and more creative. Decent. Those were decent.
Yeah, more creative.
But I think you got to head over to the YouTube in our comment section. Drop them in there. Who's getting what? Who's receiving what? All players and teams involved. And I want you guys to look through them all too, and comment and like the ones that you think were the coolest or most creative. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll give an award next week to maybe 2 awards: most fair / intriguing trade, most creative trade.
I like that.
So blow up the comments. If you're an audio listener, head over to YouTube. It's Pipe It Up MLW and leave a comment on this video with your mock trade or your dream trade, whatever you want. Just get the trade conversations flowing.
Yeah, because
the draft's coming up. Things are cooking right now. The hot stove might have a little teaser at the end of this episode. Stick around. So yeah, this is the time to put some ideas. You're putting ideas in managers' heads by doing this, by the way. You could directly,
and they do read them.
You could directly impact the league.
They do read them.
That's your incentive to comment.
Especially if Drew reads them.
Oh my gosh. If you guys are a Cobras fan and want something to happen, just start blowing up Drew's DMs and you might wake up to a thing on Instagram one day saying the Cobras did this.
It just might happen. Be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for and be careful what you say because Drew's brain is always a-going. It's always a-moving. And speaking of fans, Jack, I have a fun little transition here to the next segment. This is coming from upstairs, coming from Commish.
Oh.
And we have this not so beautiful wall back here. Don't look too close at it. We have some beautiful things hung up, of course. A beautiful sign that someone spent a lot of time on. A couple posters hung up.
Yeah.
Our pod sign's not on today.
Yeah.
We should plug that in. You got to get up. It's fine.
Okay.
But Kyle's like, if we got any artistic and creative fans that want to create some art for the pod wall, let's do it.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in trying to get some of your artwork up here, MLW related would be preferred, but I think anything sports would probably fly.
Sure.
Even some creative. I like art. I'm kind of a nerd. I kind of like art now.
Yeah.
I watch an art YouTuber a lot. I kind of got into that.
I feel like I don't know anything about art.
I don't either. That's why it's cool.
I like.
I'm very easily entertained by art now.
Yeah.
It's like I can't even draw a stick person.
Oh no, I'm so horrendous at drawing.
Yeah.
So horrendous. Probably the coolest thing I could draw is like a 3D box.
Yeah, I can draw a cube.
Yeah, that's about it.
It's pretty much I at one point in my life could draw like my name in some nice block letters, but
I do really like to doodle. Like in class,
you were a doodler?
I was a heavy.
I was not a doodler.
They're horrible doodles, but like I was the kid where like the entire margin of my note paper was just all the most random.
I was never
things.
a doodler like that. I'm boring.
Yeah.
Boring guy, I guess. But for all you doodlers out there, we would love to hang up some fan art. So send us a message with maybe some of your work and what you want to do, and I'm probably going to be pretty nice about it. So and all art's cool art. And I have a question for you, Jack. If you could pick one or the other, would you rather be really good at drawing or really good at singing?
Singing.
I think me too.
I think about that often because the reason I say that is because I do like to play guitar and I like to play songs on guitar that, you know, I can sing along to and other people can sing along to, like good campfire vibes, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of songs that when you listen to them, you don't think they would be that hard to sing. But when you're not a trained singer and your voice is a certain pitch, it's very hard. So like you can play it on the good. There's so many songs I can play on the guitar and I'd love to sing along to. I just can't make it sound good. So I would definitely pick.
But this is definitely the best time to be alive if you want to be a singer and aren't that good, because now you got, number one, auto-tune's obviously huge.
Right.
A lot of creative stuff happening in that era, but also like we're getting into like the passion and grit era, like the Zach Bryans of the world that like isn't like the best vocal range, but he just knows how to put his emotion into it.
See, I'd push back on.
You'd argue that?
That's an example where you probably listen to his songs and you're like, you know, this isn't that complicated.
Yeah, but he's not like Whitney Houston, though.
No, but like still the notes that he's hitting, like his voice is like, I'm saying it's more, it's harder than you think to like sing some of his songs.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I'm just saying, I still think comparatively from what I've heard in my lifetime in 20 years, I think there's more wiggle room there for actual vocal talent, because now like the marketing side of it via your own platforms like TikTok is so important. Yeah. That's how Zach Bryan blew up.
I think a lot of singing too is also, like I said, just like practice. Like if you training, if you have someone that can teach you how to sing, even if you're not great, it'll help you out a lot. Like some people are obviously just born to sing and they have great voices, which is so cool.
Rolling out of bed one morning and just belting it out. It'd be so awesome.
It'd be awesome. But it like anything, I think it is something that you gotta work at.
I think the more you do it, you'd get better and better and better and better.
Yeah, but with the right training.
Sure.
If you're just practicing and you stink at singing and no one's telling you stink, you're just be like, yeah, man, this is going awesome.
Sounds so great.
Yeah.
True. Okay, fair. All right, let's move into the whiff of the week. We haven't done our whiffs in a while, Jack.
No.
And I have a twist I'm going to add to this segment near the end.
We love twists.
Yeah, but you lead off this time. Give me your whiff. Pull it.
Pop it. It wasn't too bad of a whiff, but it was kind of just like little morale killer. Was traveling for work this week.
Oh, yeah.
And on the way, the flight was about 5 hours or so.
Where were you heading?
I was heading to the West Coast. And the flight was about 5 hours. On the way there, had Wi-Fi. Got a lot of work done during the week, which is nice because if you don't, kind of just piles up on you. And that's what happened on the way back. The Wi-Fi just it wasn't a flight that didn't have the option for Wi-Fi. It was they have Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi isn't working. So I was not prepared for that. I was, it wasn't like a horrible flight or whatever. I was able to just relax, but I was kind of just like I was banking on that time to like get some work done, that I didn't. So it kind of like pushed over into other time that I didn't want to be working. And it's kind of just like, I'm not going to name the airline, but like, man, that's a whiff. Like you got,
just drop it.
I get stuff like, stuff breaks, but you're supposed to have the Wi-Fi. You market it as like, we have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You better have Wi-Fi.
I have a very similar experience. Won't name the airline, but
otherwise I would have flown a different airline.
Yeah. I had the same thing where I had a flight during a Thursday Night Football Lions game to go to Boise. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to spend the $20 for the Wi-Fi, stream the game. I get on the plane, they're like, oh, the Wi-Fi is down. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So I was not happy.
It's just a whiff.
It's a whiff. My whiff, I'd argue.
Not a whiff on the pilot, though. He flew great.
Good. Good. Did you clap for him?
No, I didn't clap.
Good.
But I thanked him.
Good. Yeah, I was.
I'm thanking.
Yeah, respectful. I had probably a bigger whiff. It actually affected the podcast directly.
Oh.
And this one applies to you, Jack.
Oh.
It's your fault, actually. I have the stupid co-host. No.
My whiff is this horrible co-host that keeps showing up every week, and I can't get rid of him.
He never tells me when my hat is crooked. No. Nothing to do with you. But you are a middle child like myself.
Ah, yes.
And you have older sister, younger sister, correct?
Yes.
So same family dynamic.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar, I'm sure. So let me know if you relate to this. I think you will. My parents say I'm crazy. I promise I'm not. So you guys at home are probably wondering, why do I only have the wide shot camera of Tommy, but I have a close shot angle of Jack Aigner?
That is interesting.
Where is Tommy's close shot? Well, this is all filmed via iPhones. We had 3 iPhones.
Sponsor us.
Yeah, iPhone. We need another phone. We have my iPhone on the wide shot that I'm pointing at right now. We have Jack's iPhone that I'll cut to right now, pointing to him. Give him a thumbs up. And then we used to have an iPhone here that I indirectly did purchase. Let me note, it was a buy one, get one thing. So I pretty much paid for the phone.
BOGO.
But it ended up going to my late grandmother a few years back. So I got the phone back.
Okay. We've
been using it. Now, my younger sister goes to Mexico for spring break. She's a college student and somehow breaks her phone. They said it was water damage. Naturally. She's like, I never dropped it in the water. I don't know. It's a classic thing. You send your kid to Mexico, broken phone. Who knows what happened? You know what I mean?
Could have been a number of things.
Let me now recall a story from 3 years ago to when I dropped my phone into a lake. You guys may or may not have heard about that. But I dropped an iPhone into a lake.
I feel like I remember that.
And my phone broke. And you know what my parents said?
Pay for it.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Tough luck.
They just said, that sucks. So what did? I had to go to the store, buy a new phone, took care of it, you know? My sister breaks her phone. You would have thought the world was ending in our house.
Yeah.
Rachel needs a phone. She broke hers in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what is going on? Like, it's just a cell phone.
Yeah.
Just have her go get a new one. But they're like trying to fix her old phone and repair it so she can trade it in. And then I get roped into it somehow. And they're saying, can she trade in your podcast phone to get a new phone? And I'm like, why is this my problem? Yeah. First of all, on top of that, it's like legit my problem in terms of I'm the one who has to deal with it. In one day, I drove my sister first to Costco to talk with them to try to get the phone turned on. They couldn't turn it on to trade it in. This is her broken phone. We then go to the Apple store. I take her to the Apple store, and they can't get it to work either. They said, no, water damage. You're probably out of luck. Then I had to go back home, get the other phone, take her to the Verizon store, and then get her new phone. Get to the Verizon store. Oh, I don't have my wallet. I guess you got to pay for the taxes on the phone. So I had to pay $130. She paid me back finally, which I didn't think that money was coming, but I pay for her activation fee and the taxes on the phone despite the trade-in. And, 7 hours later, the problem was resolved, but I just don't understand, number one, why I had to give up my phone. Number two, why I had to drive across Michigan to get her a new phone.
So where is the podcast phone now?
Who knows? Apple has it. It's been traded in.
It's been traded in.
It's gone.
For her to get a new phone.
Yeah. Because it was my problem that she dropped her phone and broke her phone in Mexico. And I told my parents, I said, if that was me, there is no shot that would have happened. They go, you're crazy. We don't do anything different. I'm like, 3 years ago, I dropped my phone in the lake, and you guys kind of laughed and said, oh, that's a bummer. That was all I heard.
Literally a direct comparison.
Same situation.
Direct comparison.
Same situation.
Yeah, that's the way it is, man.
That's
the young one always gets bailed out. They're like the banks. They just get bailed out.
Is anybody more down bad than the middle child that's a boy that has 2 sisters? I don't think so.
I mean, the middle child, the thing is like the older child, when you have, I feel like what happens is when you have multiple kids, like I would say more than 2 kids, the parents end up getting like looser with their parenting as it goes. They start babying the kids more and more, I think, as it goes down the line. So like the older one, they were definitely probably the most strict with the oldest child.
I agree.
And then by the time they get to the third or maybe fourth one, they're sort of just like, it doesn't really matter. Like it's not going to affect them.
They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. So, but yeah, I feel like, they also do. I mean, it's the baby, right? It's still their baby. So they tend to like bail them out. And when you're in the middle, you're kind of just in no man's land there. Like you're not the king of the castle. Like the oldest child. The oldest child does have perks because it was like, You were their first child.
The middle has perks though, because you kind of are under the radar a little bit.
You do fly under the radar. You do fly a little under the radar, which is a perk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think there is a little bit of like middle child syndrome.
Well, like I said, I think that compounds to when you're the only boy. So like you're your dad's son, and he has high hopes for you to be this person. And it's like
you're like the next man.
You're the next man.
Yeah.
So for some reason, it's you driving around your younger sister who broke her phone. When you broke your phone, you were driving around yourself.
The thing about the story that I think it's less about the fact that they wanted you to like drive her around and make sure she, got what she needed or whatever. Because I think that's good of you to do. The funny part is the fact that you had to trade in. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. But in principle, I think it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The funny part is that we now have one less iPhone because she lost her iPhone. That's what's funny. That's what's funny about it.
Not funny to me.
Not funny. No, not funny. But
I also like indirectly paid for that phone.
Yeah.
Which is because when I got my phone, it was buy one, get one. It's like that was the get one phone.
You should just start like just texting her now, like, like you owe me that with interest,
She paid me back, like I said. But
for the phone?
Just for the
for the tax, but not for the value of the phone that you traded in.
It's a soft subject, Jack.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's tough.
It's a soft subject. We'll have to get another phone. Maybe Kyle will lend us his phone, but I don't know. I also found it kind of, I wanted to tell that story today with no phone being there because I thought it would add to it being kind of funny.
It is.
So last week I did have like a Samsung old phone sitting there, but the quality wasn't as good. So it's the Pipe It Up podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We just get through it.
It's
we're
okay.
Gritty. We're a gritty bunch.
It's okay to give to those in need, Tom. It's okay.
But no more comments. I'm done. My mom's going to hear this and feel so bad. I've already been complaining about this, but it's just a joke. But all you little sisters out there, don't take advantage of your older brothers. So I'm going to say, because they do. They will.
And your older brothers care for you.
They do, and they just use you. They'll use you for all you got.
Yeah.
They will use you for all you got.
Don't do
that.
I'll
tell you what.
Use them when you need to.
She needed to that day.
Okay.
She was mute until that phone was purchased and in her hand and working. She wasn't even speaking. Not that big of a deal. Just a phone.
It's contentious.
Just a phone.
But does she listen to this podcast?
No.
She definitely doesn't watch it.
Well, she's actually been on the podcast.
If she did watch it, she could only watch it on 2 cameras now.
Yeah. She's like, God, why is the quality of this podcast so bad?
She tunes into this one. She's like, gosh, if only they had like 3 cameras, like that'd be so much better.
Be way better. Way better. But guys, that is going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed those mock trades. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
What'd you like more, the mock draft or mock trades?
The draft.
I'd agree.
But the mock trades were cool.
I think the trades required more critical thinking in like afterwards.
Yeah.
Versus the draft we kind of thought about as we went.
Hang on, didn't you have a teaser?
I do have a teaser. It's the fun fact of the week.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Now they'll stick around just a little bit longer to hear it now. You reminded them.
It's good retention.
Speaking of reminders, if you guys got fan art or you want to make fan art, hit us up on Instagram or hit me or Jack up on Instagram. We should get back to you.
Yep.
Also, if you want an ad slot, if you want a host read ad for your Wiffle Ball League or small business or a shout out, whatever it may be, hit us up again. We have some ads that will be rolling out from you guys beginning in April. It looks like we have a couple different ones we'll be importing into the show, which is exciting.
Yes, sir.
Keeps our wheels turning.
Keep it going.
Keeps this bus moving. So we appreciate that, and hopefully you guys can benefit from it as well. And now it is time for the much anticipated fun fact, which today is that one of the names you heard in the mock trades today is likely to be involved in a real trade, and that real trade may involve multiple teams. We will see you all next week.
Pipe it up.